Today we're going to be taking a trip down memory lane with all the PS3 Frankies I've worked on in the past. I've compiled all the repairs and upgrades into one video, so you can see the entire process and get an idea of what I have to do. We'll be transforming these yellow light of death consoles to a fully functional machine again. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into the world of PS3 Frankies. And if you guys are looking to get your PS3s Frankied, check out the link in the description. Here I have three 40nm RSX GPUs ready to be reballed. I have a feeling all these consoles are going to need a GPU swap. If you guys are new to this channel and want more info about PS3 repair, I suggest you watch my What is a Frankie video for more detailed information. Right now, we're clearing pads under the 40nm RSX so we can reball it and get it ready just in case. These consoles usually have bad 90nm GPUs, so I would not be surprised if I use them all in this video. Moving on. We're starting with customer PS3 number 1. This one has an instant yellow light of death, so it's most likely going to be GPU or PSU related. But to make sure, we're going to be hooking up to Syscon to look at the Syscon error log. Right here I'm accessing Syscon to read error codes and get an idea of what it could be. After getting the error logs, I can see straight away we have error codes 3034, which means this GPU has failed. Now that I have confirmation, I'll program Syscon with a 40nm address data. Man, this thing only failed after 150 days. Get this 90nm off of here. After we finish this DLID, we'll bake and put this board on our station and remove this 90nm. This board seems to have never been touched, so I'm confident I can fix this one. And I'm really hoping that all these consoles can be repaired. But we'll have to see if we can get them all functional. Now at 20x speed, you can see the flux going under the chip, which will help melt the solder. Once the unleaded solder is melted, that's when we pull the 90nm RSX off the board. When we get up to temp, I nudge the side of the RSX to confirm the unleaded solder is melted. Alright, looks good. And just like that, it comes off clean with no issues. Now we'll quickly clean the pads on the board and replace it with a 40nm RSX. Let's apply flux on the bottom of the 40nm RSX and solder it on. After lining this RSX up with the pads, we'll wait for the solder to melt. We can see that the RSX sets down as we reach temperature. After we see this, we'll nudge this side of the RSX to confirm a very good connection. Now that we have let this board cool, we need to do the resistor mod. And we don't need to go back into Syscon because we programmed it earlier with 40nm data. Now let's get the thing back together, just to test its functionality. Alright, let's see if this RSX worked. And look at that! No yellow light of death. Let's see if it displays now. Yup. Looking good so far. Let's harvest components for the voltage mod and get these installed. And yes, these components are tiny. I'm harvesting the resistors in the controller from a donor board. This setup will achieve around 0.95 volts. We're reducing the voltage of VDDR from 1.2 volt to 0.95 to increase the lifespan of our 40nm RSX. We could leave it at 1.2 and it'd still work, but the 40nm RSX wouldn't last as long. And the whole point of this is to increase the lifespan of the console. And it looks like it works. The customer did not want NECs replaced, so on to the next one. This PS3 has green light of death. I'm going to take a wild guess and say it's the RSX. Let's get this thing open. Bruh. Why did people do this coin mod? I really don't understand. Hopefully this cell is fine. And they did it on the cell too. Nice. These coin mods seem to be big in Japan, which is where the PS3 is from, seeing as it's an AOO. And it's a Sony Frankie. Why would you do this? Look at the cell. Cell looks like a complete disaster. What is this black gunk? I really hope this wasn't a failed DLID. Okay, so after cleaning the black gunk off, I see no deep scratches. So the cell looks fine. A lot of the times, these Sony Frankies have horrid BGA rework. It's mostly horrid because they leave flux. On the bright side, we'll only need to reball this if the BGA is at fault, which it most likely is. I've had Sony Frankies in the past with the same exact issue, mostly stemming from a bad connection due to the BGA. My other Sony Frankies only needed a reball, but this is exactly why I use my ultrasonic cleaner to get rid of the flux underneath the chip. Let's check syscon logs and see if any errors have been reported. Right away, we have errors that point to early on green light of death. We also see 1001 errors, which leads me to believe that NECs are starting to go bad. I did have a yellow light of death on shutdown, so cell side NECs are for sure starting to go bad. What I'm thinking is we're going to just take this off, reball it, and put it back on. If that works, then I'll refund the customer for the cost of the RSX, which I think is fair. And after the reball, it's working fine now. I'll have to further test this though. I want to make sure the RSX is good to go. We don't even have to install the voltage or resistor mod. Seeing as Sony's already done this with the console, I'll refund the customer for the RSX in labor. I think it's only fair. Look at this beast. If that isn't drop damage, I don't know what is. And yes, those PS3s in the beginning of the video were props, not the actual customer PS3s. What do you think? Anyways, that destroyed front of the case leads me to believe that the PGA could be bad. Getting inside, we see the ZSSR power supply, which goes bad a lot of the times. I'm going to swap this out just to check if it's causing the yellow light of death. And nope. The power supply rules out. Let's crack this thing open and see what could be wrong. Okay, well, that makes sense. Another yellow light of death caused by an RSX. But check this out. This thing only lasted for 7 days. Imagine getting a PS3 back in 2006 and it having lasted 7 days. Goes to show you the power of the 90nm. On the bright side, this should be an easy fix. After a quick clean and a delid, all I'll need to do is swap the RSX and it should be good to go. Time to take the 90 off. Hopefully this will last more than 7 days. Ah, so satisfying. I'll throw this sucker in the pile of 90s. The 40nm is setting down now. I'll poke the side of it and I'll be good to go. After cooling, I'll clean the dies and test the final Frankie. And look at that, seems to be working. Thankfully, it was not on a lower firmware version. That would have been a whole can of snakes. Finally, we'll do the voltage mod and it should be good to go like the others. We got all 3 consoles working. What a successful video. If you guys want to service your yellow light of death console, you can contact us on our website, consoleking.net. You can give us more information about your PS3 through our email, and we'll be happy to assist. And if you guys would like your console shown in our videos, just let us know, and we'll be happy to do it. Right away, I want to see what's causing this yellow light of death. Even though we all know what it is, I need to verify first. So hold your horses. Time to get this thing apart and hook up UART to syscon. Checking syscon error logs, we all knew what it was going to be. 3034, GPU failure. Well, again, no surprise here. These 90s do not last. So now that we know what's causing this yellow light of death, let's get it deleted and bake for 2 hours so we can take this 90nm off with no issues. Delay goes smooth with no hiccups. Cell had an odd silicon spread, so I couldn't easily get my knife under the IHS. No big deal. Let's just get this thing in the oven. After baking, we just need to wait until this thing gets to temp. After nudging, we confirm that the solder is melted. Let's take this 90 off. We'll clear the pads on the board and then get our RSX ready to reball. Here we're checking resistances before reballing. This is crucial to verifying the 40 will work on the board. Everything checks out. Time to put this thing on the board. The RSX lowering means the solder is melted, and while the solder is melted, we'll nudge the side for good measure. And after doing resistor mod, it's good to go. Display's great. Now we'll swap out NECs and do voltage mods to ensure this thing lasts. After everything's said and done, we're going to put this thing in the ultrasonic cleaner to clean everything up. The main reason why I use an ultrasonic cleaner is to get rid of the flux. We'll put the board back in the oven to dry. After it's done drying, we'll put on new thermal pads. With new thermal pads, this thing is ready to be assembled in its metal caging. Got new thermal pads for the back side as well. Looks good to go. Still works after cleaning. Nice. Onto the case now. We have the memory card flap to deal with first. This thing is just completely busted, so we'll need to replace it. Luckily, we have another top that's broken beyond repair, so we can replace that piece for the memory card cover. After taking this small spring out and the flap out, we'll gently put them back into our top case. Looking good. This bottom case is scuffed bad. We'll have to sand it down to get an even appearance. Here we'll be using 1,000, 1,500, and 3,000 grit sandpaper to achieve this even and smooth surface. This step is mandatory for a lot of these cases, sadly, especially when they have deep scratching. The bottom sticker is going to be destroyed during this process. The sticker was already pretty much gone, so it's not a big deal in this case. I'm sure you could take the sticker off if you really wanted to, but this one was already destroyed. These days, you have to be very conservative with shells. It's getting more and more difficult to get intact backward compatible cases. So preserving every shell you come across is crucial. I try to save any shells I can, no matter how bad the surface condition is. As long as it doesn't have any cracks, I'll try to save it. You can also get new stickers online, so it's not that bad to replace them. If you want to try these methods, I would advise you to do it on shells you don't care about. I would work on junk shells until you get a good finish that you'd want. That's how I started to learn the sanding and buffing process. And while it's not perfect, it'll make terrible condition shells look much better. One day I just realized the amount of junk shells I had laying around, and I wanted to try and save as many as I could. So I started to experiment. This orbital sander makes life much easier. Considering I originally learned to do this by hand, the difference in time and effort is significant, and the results can be much more consistent. After we finish the last sanding grit, we buff the surface until we achieve a mirror finish. This step can be tedious, but the results are well worth the effort. Personally, I've been trying to perfect my craft for a while now. I still have a long way to go, but these results have gotten better and better over time. The more PS3 cases I can save, the better. Good condition cases are just so hard to come by these days. Here's the bottom case being finished up. Looks good with the mirror finish. Now for the top cover. Same process again for this piece. Looking good. Not perfect, but much better from what it was. After buffing, we'll clean these cases because they are filled with dust. I usually use a tub with warm water and soap. Works great for getting rid of caked on dust in hard to reach areas. First we'll dump and pull the bottom shell. I like to do this multiple times. Same thing for the top shell. I want to make sure we get most of the dust. And the top cover is just a quick dip, and it should be ready to go. After rinsing the top and bottom covers for a while and waiting for it to dry, it's time to get this thing back together to see what it looks like. All put together now. Looking good. Much better than what it was, I can say that much. If you guys made it this far, why not check out another one of my videos? Your support is greatly appreciated. I've got our BOL PS3 right here ready to go. And just to show you guys, here's the yellow light of death. Now to take this thing apart. This BOL was open before this, so hopefully the previous tech didn't ruin anything. It's from Japan, so I'm not hopeful. A lot of heat gunning and reflows were done over there. A lot of units I do get from Japan are actually very clean, so that's at least a plus. This PS3 might have been part of a PS3 cluster. That'd explain why it's so clean. Anyway, fully taking this thing apart, we can see some flux on the bottom of our cell. Not a great sign. This means they reflowed the cell and possibly the RSX. we're going to push through anyway for your guys' entertainment. If this ends up failing, we can take a guess why. But next up is the D-lid. We're only going to be deleting the cell for the time being. We don't have a heat gun out here, so we're just going to delete the RSX when it gets to temp on the BGA station. Once it's on the BGA station, we'll align the top heater and put some flux at the base of the RSX. After the flux has been added, it's time to turn on the heat. Came off great and no popcorning. This is actually going pretty well so far, since we're in nature. While the board cools down, we're going to select a 65nm RSX from the 3 we have. I already bought these a while ago and they've just been sitting. Just need to verify good readings and we'll be good to go. Since the board is cooled off now, we can start to clear the pads in the board. Alright, pads are cleared now. Time to apply flux on the board. After the flux is applied, we need to make it a thin layer. And we'll also put some flux on the bottom of the 65nm RSX. Now to put it on. After everything is lined up, we can put the board back onto the BGA station. Just need to adjust the top heater again, and we'll be good to go. After we get to leaded solder temp, we'll slightly nudge the side of the RSX. This will ensure a good connection. Listen to the ambience. I should do this more often. Now we have to do resistor mod and program syscon. Hooking up syscon right now. And I'll just do the training off camera. After all is said and done, let's get this thing back together. Just need to clean up the heatsink and we'll be good to go. Oh, this actually works. Are you kidding me, man? I didn't plug in the fan, but it's actually working. How crazy is that? Okay, well, we did a BGA repair. We did a Frankie in nature. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, but wow. There you go. I cannot believe that worked. Awesome. There you go. It's actually working. Oh my goodness. How crazy is that? That's awesome.